All right, so picking up where Tony and team left off following the breaking news of the release of those images by the FBI, let's go back to Arizona, bring in CBS News reporter Andres Gutierrez, who also is watching these developments in the case. Andres, the FBI says a male. How do we know for sure that the person in that image is a male? When you look at the eyes, you look at the eyebrows there, it opens up a lot of questions. Why are police so sure about gender here?
At this point, they are certain that that is the individual. As far as there is likely video. According to Kash Patel's tweet, in association with this, it seems like the video was recovered from data that was located on the back ends of the systems. Google confirmed that they had been working alongside law enforcement throughout this investigation, and so them just releasing still images makes us think that there is video associated. I mean, obviously, he says there is video associated with this, so likely there is more to know here that would let them believe that this is a male suspect. But as Jonathan was pointing out in that special report, there is that now this is a key moment in trying to piece together where this individual went, how did he get to that particular house, and in doing that, they're canvassing those area gas stations nearby to see if there was in fact any vehicles that may have been coming into that neighborhood, into Nancy's neighborhood, or exiting out shortly after the pacemaker was disconnected at around 2:27 in the morning there. So this again is a huge step. Day 10, we had wondered why there had been a lull in the investigation, but this is exactly what they wanted. Now the public can be out there looking for either the make and model of that particular backpack, the mask, the build of that individual, whether this person may have been perhaps seen, in the neighborhood, in the days leading up to Nancy's disappearance. So this is all, this is exactly what they needed to kind of guide the public in having them come forth with more information. Again, $50,000 being offered for any information leading to the capture of this individual, and obviously, hopefully, the safe return of Nancy, who's now gone without her medication for 10 days. She needed that, after for 24 hours. So again, this is may provide the big break in the case that they've been looking for, Reed.
Andres, as you and I continue to talk, I think the best service we can do is keep these images up for the public to see them. Obviously, the FBI saying these are super important to look at. So we would just ask anybody who's watching this, whether at home or in the palm of your hand, to look at all of the identifying features. Police, the FBI, echoing what Savannah Guthrie said on social media recently. Call in any tip, even the smallest tip. So if you're watching this and you recognize even the smallest detail of the mask there, of the gloves there, other photos we can scroll through show the jacket, the type of jacket, and any other identifying features, the backpack, etc. Call police. You may talk yourself out of calling in that tip, but what if you recognize the zipper on that jacket? It's somebody that you've talked to. It might just be the tip that can bring Nancy Guthrie home. What we're seeing in these images, Andres, really speaks to me about premeditation there. To Jonathan Vigliotti's point during that special report, those gloves, this person went in having planned this and planned it well.
They sure did. And Reed, also important to note that this camera got disconnected at 1:47 in the morning, and then 25 minutes later there was another motion within the house. Whether we don't know, they haven't indicated whether this was inside or outside the house, but there was some motion on the property there about 25 minutes later. So the question is whether this individual disconnected that camera, right? And then what did he do in that time? Was this just a test for law enforcement to see if they would respond? We know there must have been some type of struggle, at that front door because of the dried blood that we noticed there on the front steps that investigators did confirm through DNA testing. In fact, the forensics team out here at the Pima County Sheriff's were able to recover that blood, sent it off to the state lab. That blood came back to it being belonging to Nancy. So we know some type of altercation ensued. We're thinking now, where does it fall in the timeline? Did he do this as a test in smashing that camera? Because it looks like he's going there to kind of smash and rip it out of the bracket that still is on the door frame itself there at the home. And then, or did he, or did Nancy answer the door? Did she hear what was going on outside, and did that wake her up and come to the door? They've also noted how, again, she had limited mobility, couldn't get more than 50 yards without, without any, she needed assistance. And so, again, it is terrifying to think that this person, in the middle of the night, came into this, onto her property, and ended up taking her away, and now obviously has her. We are all hoping, for her safe return. But again, it's been more than a week where she has gone without her medication, Breed.
All right, so we will continue to put these images out. Of course, the Guthrie family and the FBI hoping that you do the same. Once again, any little detail here could be that detail that could bring Nancy Guthrie home. Andres Gutierrez chasing these late-breaking developments from Arizona. Thank you so much. We expect to talk to you much more throughout the day. All right, let's go deeper. Rodney Harrison, CBS News law enforcement contributor. You've had a chance to see these late-breaking photos. They're pretty damn chilling when you think that Savannah Guthrie and her family had to see this, the eyes of the person that took their mother. How do you read what you're seeing so far?
Well, now we have a little bit more confirmation exactly what happened here, that this is definitely now a kidnapping and there is an individual involved. And the most important thing is people don't need to necessarily take a look at the face, but take a look at the clothing and the attire and the zipper. Certain items on these clothing that maybe somebody can identify and attach it to an individual that they may know or might have seen walking around. You'd be surprised. You just take a look at the Luigi Mangione situation. Take a look at the unfortunate death that happened with Charlie Kirk. Those images that got out were able to identify a suspect a lot quicker through the public's help, identifying a certain description or identification on that person that they were able to notify law enforcement.
Well, and as we drill down on these images, the public, of course, is encouraged to do the same. Let's keep those up because they're super important for our viewers to look at here. You see those very thick gloves that this person is wearing. You see the type of shoes. To your point, the jacket, the zipper on the jacket. What's the process for investigators not only looking for somebody who might have clues attached to those features, but also they can now zero in on where a jacket like this was purchased or marketed, or where gloves that appear very thick, they appear to be almost industrial. They appear to go up beyond the hemline of that jacket. What do you look at as far as those details and where they are sourced from to sort of drill down on where a person could have sourced these things that they're now wearing?
So that's a great question. And the answer there is this. I don't know how many stores in that community, Tucson, Arizona, that sell those types of gloves, maybe that type of heavy type of jacket with that type of zipper. But I want to believe that the investigators will now start taking a look at any type of location that may sell gloves or jackets or anything else that even the ski mask in that vicinity, and hopefully take a look at some surveillance cameras that could possibly identify a subject that might have walked in and purchased those items.
As we look at these images scrolling on the screen, you are able to deduce just from looking at that image a little bit of a story or a profile of that person. Do that with us in real time, if you will, here on CBS News 24/7. What story emerges when you look at these images to you?
To be honest with you, this was planned out. This wasn't a random situation. This individual knew what they were doing. They knew that there was some type of camera on the door. Did they do a surveillance before they went there, or were they given the information prior to going there, knowing that, listen, you got to wear a ski mask. Hey, there's going to be a camera on the door. This individual had information which led him to cover himself up, or him or her, depending on who the perpetrator may be. But there's certain things that show that this was not just a random attack. This is somebody that had it planned out, went after the camera, have themselves covered up, had on gloves so they don't leave prints. This is a planned out situation of a crime that hopefully that the investigators get down to the bottom of it.
Pre-planning, strategy, very clear in what they're wearing, but also we know that investigative bodies and people who are the sharpest in these sort of situations also anticipate that there is a criminal mind somewhere out there holding Nancy Guthrie, who took her in the night. Is this also today, this release, sort of saying, we're going to put some heat on you out there? They know that this person likely could be watching media. And does releasing this at this time put a little more heat on this person? And if so, why as a strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing. And one of the strategies that you have to do is you may have to go into the jail cells, maybe even the prisons, have people that may be in their custody take a look at this body frame, that jacket, those mitts, and take a look and say, hey, does anybody know anybody that fits the description? If you ask me, I wouldn't be surprised if this individual, this wasn't his first time committing a crime. So, you got to take a look at people that may be involved in that criminal element, and maybe they can provide some information of who this individual might be.
Another thing that occurs to me as we look at these images is the memory of the last time we heard a news conference from the Pima County Sheriff's Office. Asked over and over about surveillance video or surveillance photos, his answer was essentially, we've sent all that to a lab and we've heard it's a dead end. That Nancy Guthrie didn't have a subscription to this service that we now know from the images is Nest. You see that in the top right-hand corner. Are you surprised now at the difference between what the sheriff told the public and what we now know to be true, which is there are images and Kash Patel signals video to go along with it?
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm disappointed. It seems to be a lack of communication with the Pima Sheriff's County Police Department and maybe the FBI. I don't know if they put together a task force or if they're working together in the same room. But the one thing that should not be happening is separate investigations and separate messages being sent out to the public. So as a law enforcement person with 30 years in this type of business, I don't see the same level of communication coming from the different agencies.
All right. We appreciate the conversation. Stay right there because we anticipate we'll be wanting to talk to you throughout this hour.